So what are we talking about? We're talking about the internet, where we're at, where we're going to go, what's happening. First, I want to thank Dan Yearman for his comments during our LinkedIn discussion. Hope some of you found those interesting. He touched on a lot of things that we want to talk about, a lot of changes about what Apple is doing with the iPad and about social media and what's happening and call it fragmentation, something Jason will touch on. How many of you remember these? Hopefully your technology has advanced a little bit more. You're doing a little bit better than your Apple IIe, going to what Apple is doing nowadays. How many people have a feature phone still? Boy,
I'll admit it.
I feel like the lone, as all our panelists with their iPads. So, a lot of changes going on with what's going on in mobile. You got your four big players there. If you're thinking about your internet security and your privacy, if these images come to mind and you're thinking internet security and privacy, we need to talk. If you notice, even this lady has her little fingers covered on her little sweater on her mouse. So, you know. So where are we going to go? One of the things that I, in looking at all this information, we discovered is that there's a digital divide, and we've talked about there's all kinds of digital divides that we've seen in the past from people who have computers versus people that don't, and socioeconomic digital divides as well. And what I've seen, there's a growing digital divide between the haves and the have-nots as far as smartphones. Now, with a lot of the providers switching to smartphones being the default phone or your free phone, maybe this divide won't be as significant. This is just showing the smartphone versus feature phone projections from Nielsen. We're about here, so that kind of coincides with everything that we've seen. And then privacy. This is about a year old, about what websites are doing regarding their privacy policies and letting people know what they're doing and what they're doing with that data. So it's kind of, there's a lot of stuff going on. What should we be doing? What aren't we doing? Who should we be yelling at to do something different? So there's the great crystal ball to see what's going to go on in 2011. So let's start off with David and take his views on consumers.
Definitely. Thank you. Anybody been to the Cleveland Home and Garden Show this year yet? The Great Lakes Expo Center? No. Well, never mind then. Anybody wants free tickets, let me know. But nonetheless, I work with a company called USA Expositions, and we focus on consumer shows. We're the promotional agency for consumer shows. And so we work with home and garden shows, boat shows, car shows, and women's shows across the country. And our primary effort is recruiting national sponsorships. So GMC, American Family Insurance, Dish Network, Angie's List, Better Homes and Gardens we have a partnership with. So it's an organization that has been around for probably about 25 years and started as part of IMG Expositions. And then over the last 7 years, we broke off into our independent one. Up until GMC went bankrupt, they were the title sponsorship for the National Home and Garden Show series, which consisted of 30 independent home and garden shows. And we attract, as part of the 30 independent shows, about 1.5 million consumers and about 30 home and garden shows with about 6.5 million in media advertising. So at the time when we were working with sponsorships, up till about 2009, most sponsors were looking for brand awareness. How do we get in front of 1.5 million consumers? How do we set up an exhibit booth at a show, 20 by 60, to tap those consumers that 60% are coming and will make a purchase in a home improvement investment over the next 12 months? Well, over the last 2 years specifically, as GMC fell off the bandwagon and other sponsors are really starting to evaluate corporations where they're going to spend their event dollars, a lot of things have changed. And I think in terms of the state of the internet, that has more of an impact than anything else. How are we not only interfacing, or what platforms are we picking that aren't only face-to-face where we get to interact with a qualified consumer, but in fact we actually get to tap or touch them from multiple touch points? How do we get leads that are qualified? How do we generate interest about our product that isn't just about brand awareness or impressions? And I think really from my perspective on where we can focus or think about, how have we had to look at a national platform that's got very qualified consumers and integrate digital components into it? How are we touching people online when they're searching about the show? How do we touch people in the ticketing purchase online? You know, people are used to purchasing tickets at the show or going to locally here, a discount drug mart to purchase a $2 discount ticket. So not only are we dealing with what are consumers looking for, but what are sponsors looking for when it comes to interacting with event-based platforms. So this year, we brought on Dish Network as the presenting sponsor as the National Home and Garden Show Series. And in effort with them, as we advanced our platform, we really adopted in a lot of ways of what we learned over 2010 in terms of how consumers are interacting with social media, how consumers are interacting with search. A big factor to our success is search. Somebody goes to type in Cleveland Home and Garden Show, what site's popping up? What information are they finding? We do have competitors in the marketplace that will put things out there that are a little disadvantageous when we have multiple shows in a singular market. So our focus this year was probably 3 or 4 different components and really driving force to integrated marketing, integrated touch points. How do we use face-to-face, digital, and traditional mediums as one, not only to have a platform that exists 3 months out of the year, but turn it into something that's 12 months year-round. So we started off by, what's our website? PremierHomeShows.com. That is the only place to buy online tickets for all 30 home and garden shows. So we'll see about 500,000 visitors over a course of 3 months from data last year that we captured that will come to our site to purchase tickets. And now it's a matter of how do we capitalize on those that are coming to our site, probably about 80% looking to buy online tickets, to engage them, to share with their friends and family about going to the events, as well as lead generation. And I know when Thomas talks a little bit about ethics, lead generation is probably one of those items that's very much on the borderline. How do we get consumers to opt into information or to receive information from sponsors and exhibitors without having too much of a touchy situation? And it's something that has become more and more popular, but it's not lead generation from an e-commerce perspective. It's lead generation to utilize on the show and give to the sponsors to follow up with. And it's not necessarily going just to one sponsor. We're trying to be category focused. So we partnered with a company called TicketLeap, and they provide our online ticketing platform. It's a social ticketing platform that interfaces with social media during the checkout process on a personal profile level. We're not interacting with the event. We're not interacting with their professional profile on Facebook either. It's about the personal profile interaction. So as you're purchasing a ticket, you have the ability to share the event on your newsfeed as well as tweet it out to your followers that you're attending the Home and Garden Show, and it's all about you. The second aspect to ticketing that we focused on is lead generation. So we selected 16 different categories, anything from bath, kitchen, windows, waterproofing and contracting to none, of why are you attending the home show? What are you going there to purchase or interested in attending? And then we followed up immediately with an opt-in question. Are you interested in receiving information from an exhibitor prior to the show about exclusive promotions? And so what we offer the exhibitors, and we typically have between 400 and 600 at any show, is the ability to touch them, not just to receive their contact phone and email address if they've opted in to specific categories, but the ability to hit them before they go to the show as well. So what we've done is set up a kind of a turnkey platform with Salesforce, an ESP provider, and TicketLeap, where as soon as you select yes, and based on the categories, we've got exclusive exhibitors, that consumer will get shot an email with their booth number, kind of playing off a little bit the Groupon approach, where the exhibitor will receive an email with the exhibitor's booth number, the exhibitor's contact information, as well as exclusive promotion that if you print this out, take it to their booth, you get that promotion. You know, people are doing 50% off installation, 20% off siding or doors or windows, those types of elements. And really trying to make it a program that isn't just handing leads over, but making something very turnkey out of it. So there's a lot of elements that we've really tried to focus on from a consumer perspective, not only meeting their needs and wants, knowing we've got somebody that's highly qualified, they're buying tickets to go to the show, they're going to the show to typically purchase some sort of home improvement investment over the next 12 months. The other aspect of it, since we're a national website, is we integrated a geolocation feature. So based on where you log in from, the entire left-hand column, left widget, is based off of your nearest home show, your nearest home show's Facebook activity feed, as well as the advertisements are going to be localized. So with Dish Network and Angie's List as our two primary sponsors, we tied in their advertising specifically to talk to those local markets, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, California, Fresno, Cleveland, Florida, et cetera, et cetera. So, in terms of trends and statistics, I want to say that we're trying to not be a leader in the consumer event show industry, but rather take all of the interactions, advancements of things that we learned from Groupon and how they've been able to save consumers $1.5 billion in savings over the last 12 months. How they've been able to sell 51, I think, million in the United States Groupons. We've looked at Facebook and the advancements and continued trends that they're making. How do we interact both on a professional profile or Facebook page side of things with consumer shows, where they need to be posting content that isn't just promoting the show, but offering free tickets, offering a national program with Dish Network, where we brought in Showtime to offer a national program to visit their studios for a week across all the shows. How do we integrate that to Facebook page, as well as capitalize on their personal profile as well? Lead generation is a new area. We're testing that, but it's very ethical, and there's a fine line of what you can and can't do, as well as we need to keep a high lead quality score. As more websites, as more consumer-facing aspects of websites try to capture leads and it becomes more spam and more saturated, we don't want to decrease our leads. We don't want to become known for a website that's sharing content or sharing your information that you opted in and trust us with to other exhibitors or spammers or advertisers. So keeping those lead scores above an 80 percentile opt-in rate and return rate. And that helps us go to national sponsors year over year, and this is our first year doing it, to sell that program again. The other aspect is how do we tie in locally, and this is something that we've struggled with a lot, geolocation on site with mobile, phone. How do we use Foursquare or Gowalla or some of these other sites, Facebook Places, to capitalize on consumers at a show? We'll get anywhere from 20,000 to about 200,000 people in the course of 4 to 10 days. And the problem with that is the consumers, show producers of the events don't get it. They don't understand the technology. And the consumers might want it, but they don't know how to implement it. They don't know how to leverage it for promotional opportunities, for free tickets, for pictures, to help, more importantly, spread the word to their friends and family about going to the show. And so the obstacle for us isn't knowing that the technology is there, or the fact that we're able to use consumers that may be a small percentage of our attendees, but it's more how do we manage it, and the consumer shows themselves, since they're independently produced, don't really understand that aspect to it. So, kind of in a nutshell, and I don't want to talk too much longer, trend-wise, where we're going, I wanted to focus a little bit more on where we're going, because it's truly an integrated platform with qualified consumers, qualified leads, qualified interactions that a lot of tactics and elements, both online and offline, don't have. And that's kind of something we're trying to lead on. You don't see it in consumer events. You don't see it in consumer shows. You see it in trade shows. You see it in more CES type of events, but consumer shows are way behind. So, from a consumer perspective and fulfilling the needs of national sponsors, we tried to really create something that was a little bit turnkey, that was integrated, that met the consumer's needs and interactions, as well as fulfilling sponsorships needs, and how can we leverage those relationships.